Let's talk a little cash or trash, our early edition here. Marcus, this one is kind of interesting. The season is a couple days old, and we're thinking about who's going to get fired next. And so I'm going to throw some odds for you. We've got Nick Fangio at 5-1 to be the first coach fired, the favorite, followed by Matt Nagy at 6-1 and Zimmer at 8-1. So I think I know where you're going after our director's cut conversation with this, and I think we may be going the same way. But where are you going with that bet?
Yeah, I think it's Matt Nagy. They don't have the quarterback situation solved. They're going to try to do something this offseason. They're probably going to lose Allen Robinson in free agency. There's just not a lot on that offense that has us inspired, and they're behind Green Bay. They're a distant second at best in that division. I don't see how Nagy makes it through the season. I think there's a good chance, depending on the way the schedule, works out, that they start out rough and they fire Nagy, and it's Bill Lazor's job for the rest of the season. And the Chicago Bears are in the head coaching market next year.
Those Nagy odds are cash, man. I get the vibe here. Yeah. There's people that are unhappy already. We got quarterback shuffling. You've got the GM here. I don't see how it ends particularly well. I mean, Fangio's situation is not particularly great either, frankly.
No, but he hasn't been there
exactly.
as long. So that's the thing, is it's still fairly new. I think this is his third year in Denver.
He'll get the season.
I think they're going to give him
I think he'll get the season to figure it out, and you figure out what Drew Lock is. So, but yeah, Nagy, I think that's going to be it's not going to be good. It's going to be.
Is there a dark horse guy that you consider, potentially getting fired?
Well, in the NFL, I feel like it's so different now, right? I was thinking about that a little bit earlier. There's been so much like churning, though, that these feel to me like legitimate candidates, unless I'm missing somebody in terms of true.
What about what about like Zach Taylor in Cincinnati?
That could be,
right? If they get off to a really slow start with Joe Burrow coming back, they're going to have a bunch of weapons on offense, probably a top 5 pick on the offensive line. If this is a team that starts 1-4, 1-5, and they're behind, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, maybe. But Cincinnati is a fairly cheap organization. Yes. They don't want to fire a guy. So I think Taylor is interesting. And that's really the only other one that comes to mind.
I was thinking the non-firing one, like a Belichick leaving, right? Or somebody, beyond the firing, what other departures could be out there, right? What fit that mold, but it's a little bit different, because I do think ultimately we could see some movement. But I think the favorites in this part make a lot of sense, frankly. I think ultimately one of those guys is going to cash. All right, cash or trash, Marcus. Chiefs plus 500 to win the Super Bowl next year, plus 500, plus 6, right around there, right? So one of the co-favorites.
So they were a D4 offside penalty away from being in 3 straight Super Bowls. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. The rest of the AFC is good, but I don't think there's anybody on their level. I think they're probably even odds to get back to the Super Bowl next year. So plus 500, I think that's pretty good value, Adam. I'm good with that.
So cash for you, cash for me. Look, Mahomes is going to get his foot worked on. They're going to address the O-line. They're going to get guys back healthy. They still have crazy weapons. The NFL is tough. Like you're a bad step away from your season changing, of course, for everybody.
Correct.
So part of this feels a little Tiger versus the field-ish, doesn't it? Like have a kind of a vibe. But
the difference is they've shown they can win even if Patrick Mahomes is out, right? They've won with Chad Henne and Matt Moore before. They beat the Cleveland Browns with Henne playing in the entire second half. So even if Mahomes is gone for a 4 or 5 game stretch, I just trust Andy Reid that they're going to stay above water. So they're one of the few teams in the league that I think can survive a quarterback injury and still advance.
It ain't trash. Like that's the thing. I may not be lining up to bet it, but how can you say it's trash? I mean, look at this team. And the line will get healthy, which was, I am curious. I think Pat Mahomes referenced this. If we just saw a blueprint of how to beat this team, here's a part about that, Marcus. Like, okay, the blueprint is get after the quarterback and have like an unbelievable, like all-time defensive game called with great players all over the field. Like this ain't, I love that argument. Like, oh, here's the blueprint. Well, no,
and then have a Tom Brady on the other,
like,
and have a Tom Brady on the other side of the field that can put up 30 points in any game. Yeah, it's going to be hard. And listen, Tampa Bay is a team that has a bunch of free agents coming up. It seems very, very unlikely they're going to have a better roster. So I think the Chiefs are just far more likely to get to the Super Bowl than Tampa Bay. And that's why I love their odds at plus 500.
All right, well, perfect timing. Segue alert. Packers and Bucs both plus 450 to win the NFC. Which one is cash and which one is trash?
I'm riding with Green Bay. I really think this is going to be the last great run that the Packers have. I've been saying it on this podcast for a couple of weeks now, Adam. I think this is the year that Green Bay is going to invest in their weapons. They're going to surround Aaron Rodgers with talent. I think Rodgers is going to make one more run in Green Bay and then potentially move on somewhere else, whether that's via trade, whether that's a release. I just feel like this is his last run in Green Bay. And I can see them pretty easily getting back to the NFC Championship game for a third straight year and then finally getting over the hump.
I'm with you, man. This is going to be a Green Bay heavy podcast for the months ahead, I think. Me too. Yes. I'm riding it, and I think you're right. There is an urgency and a difference, I think, in mentality, hopefully for Green Bay, which drafted a quarterback last year. Of course, you think about this team, they should have been in that spot. In fact, you could make an argument like that very well could have been and should have been a Super Bowl team, not to take away anything from what Tampa did, but that was the kind of team they had. It feels like a missed opportunity. I'm curious what we get out of the Bucs. I mean, this was lightning in a bottle, but this is still a roster that's super talented. I love, and I know you do too, Marcus, these young defensive players, Devin White, Winfield, Wirfs,
Vita Vea.
I mean, these are home run draft picks over the last couple of years, surrounded by veterans. And you're right. We'll be interested to see what they do in terms of free agency, but again, not necessarily a bad pick either. But if in terms of cash, I'm with you on Green Bay. Patrick Mahomes plus 500 to win the MVP next year, cash or trash. I'll start first actually, because I don't want to put you on the spot all the time. I think it's cash. I think this team's going to be mad. I think his foot is going to be repaired. The offensive line will be better, kind of like the Chiefs. Who are you going to go and advocate for over Mahomes, like out of the jump? You want to do Josh Allen and say that he's going to run back his season? Hey, maybe. And good luck with that. I think for the foreseeable future, I'm going to take Mahomes. And if somebody doesn't want to do that, at least while their roster is currently constructed the way it is, which should still be excellent, and I'm going to feel okay about that, even if there's not a lot of value there.
So do you like Mahomes to win the MVP better than the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl? Because I think I do. I think I like the MVP 5-1.
I do too. That's a great question, but yes, I'm riding with you there.
Yeah, I just think, again, Mahomes, they're going to come back with some vengeance here. He's going to be healthy. They're going to have all their weapons back. They're going to fix the offensive line. Eric Fisher should be back in time. They're going to put up a bunch of points and they're going to put up a bunch of numbers. I just think he's a lock to get 40 touchdowns and close to 5,000 passing yards. And there's so few quarterbacks in the league that can do that. So at 5-1, heck yeah, I'll put some money on Mahomes. Why not?
It's probably, again, it's like a new car. Like you take a car off the lot and it's like the value is going to go down. Mahomes is going to put up 375 and 3 touchdowns in week 1. And you may never see 5-1 again.
We'll be back down to plus 200.
Exactly. Yep. That's the way it goes. So again, it's a unique award. It's a momentum award. You look at Rodgers this year when Mahomes looked like the guy. Again, next 7-8 years, I think I know where I'm going. Until otherwise, I think that's the way to do it. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, kind of the opposite discussion with Mahomes. No shade intentional for Taysom Hill, but Taysom Hill, that's immediate shade. Actually, I don't know what I'm saying. Taysom Hill.
Listen, you're using that word quarterback. That quarterback word very loosely here. But
okay, there's even more shade. Taysom Hill plus 115 to be the Saints starting QB in week 1. Cash or trash?
Trash. I don't think Sean Payton wants to use Taysom Hill as a full-time quarterback, whether it's, maybe if they bring Jameis Winston back and he's a starter, maybe Teddy Bridgewater, who the Panthers might move on from, who obviously is familiar with Sean Payton. Maybe he's a starter. I just don't see any way that Hill is the opening day starter. He's going to have a role. He might have a couple spot starts here or there, but I just don't envision him being Sean Payton's guy to rebuild the Saints team.
It should be trash. I'm going to say trash, but Sean Payton's ego is what has me a little reluctant here. that Peyton's going to go into this and say, yes, I'm going to create this bulldozer offense. You can't do this though, Marcus. Like there's too many good pieces on this team. Their window is still open. That defense is really good. Play Jameis. Like play Jameis in there, and I think you got a much better credit.
But they got to re-sign Jameis. That's the thing, is this is a team that is no cap. They're going to like $90 million over the cap. So they got to sign Jameis. And Adam, there's a bunch of teams out there that could use Jameis. Absolutely. So I don't know if New Orleans is going to have the cap space to even retain him.
It's an interesting position though, because if you're a quarterback, regardless of the finances, like that's a place you want to go potentially on a 1-year deal to increase your value, because you are surrounded by weapons. I'm sorry that you just can't. Taysom Hill can't be the guy. Like
no,
Taysom can do a lot of things, and good for him, by the way. All right, good for him for turning into this career where he made himself a lot of money. That's not going to work over the course of a full season.
Can I give you another hypothetical? I want you to pick. Who is more likely to be their team starting quarterback? Mitchell Trubisky with the Bears or Taysom Hill with the Saints?
Boy, based off of the chatter, I'd say that's about a coin flip. Although I'd probably go Mitch. Although that's a great question. Where would you go on that?
I would probably go Taysom Hill, because I just don't feel like there's any way Chicago can go back into this season with Nagy and Trubisky and expect things to change. Isn't there a quote about doing the same thing over and over as the definition of insanity?
It's the Bears, man.
You just can't. Yeah, the Bears. That's all we need to say. That is the Bears.
And Mitch played reasonably well over the end. I mean, this is where we're trending. If you're going to bring back Nagy and you're going to bring back Pace,
you can't bring back that whole nucleus and expect it to be better, especially if they lose Allen Robinson. There's just no way.
What? I'd love to see Mitch with New Orleans, and with Peyton. I actually think that would be an interesting fit. But that's the kind of situation, and we'll get into it momentarily. It's going to be like quarterback roulette here, where we're just moving guys around. Of guys that are capable, but not necessarily in great demand. Non-Deshaun Watson division, of course. So there's a lot of movement there.